I asked my daughter if I could join her family for New Year's Eve. She said, "Dad, you'll ruin the photos." At midnight, the fireworks went off, and so did my surprise. She never forgot that night. If you've ever been told you don't belong in a family photo, if you've ever felt invisible in a room you built with your own hands, tell me where you're watching from right now. I want to know who's out there, who understands the sting behind a smile. I want to know which city, which streetlight, which small kitchen hears the same quiet I heard that night. I stood in her doorway with a tin of almond cookies, the kind her mother used to bake. The sky was the color of pewter, and the air tasted like cold metal. Inside, the house glowed with warm lights and the smell of rosemary and roast chicken. I felt the heat on my face and thought, it's good to be near them. It's good to be around voices. I made myself smaller as I stepped in, careful with the snow on my boots. Mia, my daughter, my only child, came down the stairs in a silver dress. She looked like a memory of her mother walking toward me. For one long second, my chest hurt with love. "Dad," she said, and her smile was polite, like a clerk handing back change. "You came. I brought cookies," I said. My voice sounded like a new shoe, stiff, awkward. "Thought I could join you tonight. If it's not a problem." Her husband Daniel came around the corner with a camera strap slung across his chest like a badge. He looked me up and down. He was wearing one of those narrow ties that make a man's throat look like a point you can press on. "It's a family thing," he said. "We've got arrangements, I repeated. The word felt formal, like a folded napkin. Mia touched his arm, then looked back at me. "Dad, we're doing photos this year for the family wall. The kids are in matching pajamas. The theme is winter white. We planned it for weeks. I can stand in the back," I said. "I don't take much space." Her eyes softened for a second, then hardened. "It's not that," she said. "It's just, we want the pictures to look clean, consistent." Daniel cleared his throat. "Aesthetic," he said. I almost laughed. Aesthetic. I thought of all the nights their electricity stayed on because of my wire transfers. I thought of repainting this house myself, the year they moved in and couldn't afford a contractor, my hands raw. My back a red ribbon of pain, a cooler full of sandwiches I ate alone while they went out to look at crib sheets. I thought of my wife sewing curtains in the evenings, teaching Mia how to hide knots in the hem so the fabric fell straight. I thought of every picture frame in this house that came from our attic, the gold edges buffed with my wife's old silk scarf. "Dad," Mia said again, and then she cut the thread that held me in place. "You'll ruin the photos." The words were like ice water down my spine. Not loud, not cruel in tone, but precise. The kind of precision you only get after rehearsing in your head. I set the tin on the sideboard and looked at my hands. They were clean. I had trimmed my nails that morning. I'd polished my shoes. I was wearing the navy sweater Nell, my wife, had always liked on me. I pressed my thumb into my palm and breathed through my nose. The roast smelled good. The tree they set up was tall and delicate. The lights made soft circles on the ceiling. The children ran through the hall laughing, their socks slipping on the wood. "I see," I said. My voice was flat. Not anger, something colder. A slice of pond ice you can slide a finger under and lift in one clean piece. Mia shifted. "We'll send you the photos," she said brightly. "And you can come by New Year's Day for leftovers. Maybe then we can—" Maybe then, I repeated. I wasn't always this quiet. Years ago, I would have argued. I would have said, "Your mother wanted us together." I would have said, "I am your father." But after losing Nell, my words learned how to choose themselves. She died on a Tuesday afternoon, the kind of day that has no personality. I still remember the way sunlight made the hospital floor look wet. It wasn't dramatic. No storm, no wail. Just the beeping stopping and then me sitting there saying, "All right," because I didn't know what else to say. I went home that night to a house that remembered her. The kettle whistled like it missed her. The couch kept the shape of her. Her scarf on the chair back was a question I refused to answer. Back then, New Year's Eve was our night. She'd make cinnamon tea and open the windows to let the old year out. She'd wrap a blanket around both of us and sit on the porch swing while Mia ran in circles with sparklers. "Remember this," Nell would say. One day she won't run like that, I remember. I remember Mia on my shoulders, her small hands gripping my head, shrieking with laughter when the neighbors lit fireworks by the lake. I remember the year we couldn't afford anything special, and Nell drew fireworks on black paper with chalk and tape. The chalk dust turned our fingers bright. We laughed until we cried. We told Mia it looked better than real fireworks because it was ours. So standing in my daughter's hallway, listening to Daniel talk about composition and light, I kept those memories next to me like a shield. I watched Mia's mouth as she organized everyone. The way she said, "Mommy and Daddy in the middle, kids around," and then corrected herself and said, "Me and Daniel in the middle." There was a moment where her eyes flicked to me, and something soft in her face. A girl who used to ask if she could sleep between us on stormy nights. Then it closed. "We'll be quick," she said. "You can sit in the den, Dad. There are snacks." I nodded. I went to the den and sat on the edge of the couch. I folded my coat beside me and slipped my hand into the inside pocket, just to feel the edge of the envelope. It was thick and heavy, the paper expensive and slightly rough to the touch. It made a soft noise when I tapped it with my finger. A private sound. A soft bell only I could hear. "This house. Let me tell you about this house." When they first saw it, it was tired. The yard was a mess of weeds and someone's forgotten tomatoes. The walls were nicotine yellow. The porch sagged like it had secrets. Mia loved it. She said it smelled like stories. They couldn't afford it, and they knew it. They told me they'd wait. I said nothing. I called the seller myself. I transferred money. I arranged things so the closing would be easy. And then I made the deed read a certain way. Not to hurt them. Not to own them. To protect what Nell and I had built from being pawned by anyone with a smooth voice and a straight tie. I did it because of love and because I believed, with the kind of faith that is foolish, that love would be returned when needed. I kept the papers quiet. I put the originals in a safe. I kept copies in an envelope. Tonight I took the envelope with me. Not because I planned a war, because I know that sometimes when people forget who taught them how to hold a fork, you must set the table again and show them. In the den, the clock ticked loud. I could hear Daniel's voice counting, 3, 2, 1, hold. I could hear the shutter click. The children giggled, their little feet a patter of rain on wood. I sat still, hands on my knees, and listened to my own breathing. When the door opened and the in-laws came in, Daniel's parents, wearing matching scarves and the expression of people who believe they're experts in manners, they paused when they saw me. "Oh," his mother said. Her lipstick was a hard red line. "You're here." "I am," I said. "We weren't sure," she said, and somehow made not being sure sound like hope. She turned her face away before I could reply, as if my answer might scratch her. Daniel's father nodded at me the way you nod at a neighbor whose dog barks too much. The photographs went on. Different poses, champagne flutes, a close-up of hands. "Should we do one with just the parents?" Daniel asked, loud enough for me to hear. "Parents of the kids, I mean." Mia looked in my direction for half a second. "Yes," she said, like stepping around a puddle. "Just us." I stood up then. I walked to the doorway and watched them arrange themselves. The kids were beautiful. Their hair caught the light like sugar. The smallest one, Lily, saw me and waved, a quick flutter of fingers. I lifted my hand and waved back. Mia saw it and stiffened, as if a draft had slipped through the room. "Dad," she said softer now. "Please, you're making this complicated." I stopped. I looked at her like I looked at the horizon when I didn't know what time it was. I remembered the weight of her asleep on my chest when she had a fever, and Nell laid cool cloths on her forehead. I remembered fixing her bike chain while she cried, because the neighborhood kids had left her behind. I remembered the day after Nell's funeral, when Mia wouldn't come out of her room, and I sat outside her door with a plate of buttered toast until the bread got hard and the butter turned shiny. I remembered promising Nell I would stay close, even if it hurt. "Of course," I said. "I don't want to ruin the photos." Daniel smiled in relief, like a man who has found his keys. "Great," he said. When the clock in the hall chimed 11:30, Mia called everyone to the balcony. The city below us threw light into the sky, windows blinking like eyes. The air had that bite that wakes you up even if you've been asleep for years. I stood near the back, behind a potted plant that someone had wrapped in fairy lights. I could see our reflections in the glass, their silver, my navy, a blue shadow among bright shapes. Daniel handed out sparklers to the kids. He poured champagne and placed a flute in Mia's hand. He held one near me, then pulled it back when he remembered I don't drink on New Year's Eve. "Your father doesn't like bubbles," he told Mia, and laughed. He didn't know why I don't drink on New Year's Eve. He didn't know that it was Nell's rule, that we keep our heads clear for words we might want to keep and words we might regret. He didn't know her habit of writing down one promise at midnight and taping it inside the pantry door. He never looked in the right places. I slid the envelope from my coat and held it at my side. The edge pressed a line into my palm. It felt like a spine. I looked up and saw the moon trying to push through a thin cloud. I thought of Nell. "It's almost time," Mia said, checking her phone. Her voice was bright again, shining up the worry like a coin. "Dad," she said without looking at me, "stay where you are, please." I didn't answer. I let the quiet sit between us like a plate no one claims. 10, Daniel shouted. The balcony answered him. 9. The kids bounced on their toes. The smallest one sneezed and laughed. 8. I let the cold air thread through my sweater. I felt every year I have lived sit in my bones like stones in a riverbed. 7. I stepped forward one pace. Not much. Just enough to feel the light on my face. 6. Daniel's head turned slightly like he had heard a noise he didn't understand. 5. I raised my hand, the envelope catching the fairy lights. 4. Mia saw it. Her mouth parted. 3. I moved to the edge of the group. My voice when it came was not loud. It was clear, like a note on a glass rim. 2. I have a small thing, I said. 1. The first fireworks bloomed in the sky with a soft thud and then a rain of gold. The sound rolled over our roof, and then the color followed, showering the balcony with moving light. The children squealed. Someone shouted, "Happy New Year!" The crowd in the street began to sing. In the middle of the noise, I slid my thumb under the envelope flap and opened it. "Before the new year begins for this house," I said. Almost conversational, "You might want to know whose roof you're under." Daniel laughed, confused, then stopped laughing when he saw the papers in my hand. His face changed in stages, like a time-lapse of weather. Mia blinked. "Dad?" she said. I pulled the first document free, the one with the official seal at the bottom, all squares and stamps and the serious font that makes people sit up straighter. "This," I said, "is the deed." I turned it so the porch light hit it clean. "The deed to this property," I updated it after you moved in. "The title is held in a family trust. The primary signatory is me. Secondary is reserved to my granddaughter, Lily, when she turns 21. Lily's eyes went round. She didn't understand, but she understood enough to smile. Daniel's mother made a small sound, like a swallow caught wrong. What is this?" "Letters," I said, and pulled out the second paper. "From your late mother," I told Mia, and her hand flew to her mouth. "She wrote them the year she got sick. She asked me to keep them until I needed to remind you what a home is. In this one she wrote, 'Keep the house a place of welcome. Keep our table long. Keep the door open for the one who opens it for others.'" Mia reached for the paper. Her hands were shaking. Fireworks painted blue on her face, then red, then green. "And this," I continued, "is the letter from the bank. It confirms the mortgage is held by the trust and will be forgiven if certain conditions are met. I kept paying when you couldn't, quietly, because I love my daughter, even when she forgets where she came from. I never asked for rent. I asked to be included in a photograph." "Dad," she breathed. I looked at the champagne in Daniel's hand. His knuckles had gone white. "You want it aesthetic," I said mildly. "Clean lines. Consistency. Let me suggest an edit." I set the envelope on the table, arranged the papers in a neat fan, and smoothed them with my palm. "This house stays in the family as long as the family treats each other like family. That's written here, too. If you cut me out, you cut yourselves out. If you make this house a place where the original table is shortened to make room for ego, the trust dissolves. The property is sold. The funds go to a scholarship in your mother's name." I paused. That's my surprise. The fireworks rumbled like a drum roll from the city, and then the sky went white for a second, bright enough to make us blink. The children were quiet now, watching the grown-ups. Daniel found his voice. It came out thin. You're blackmailing us," he said. No, I said, and let a small smile touch one corner of my mouth. I'm reminding you, I met his eyes. You stood on my ladder when you painted your nursery. You called me when your car wouldn't start. You brought me broken chairs and broken shelves and broken promises. I fixed the first two. The third, I looked at Mia. I'm returning to you, repaired. Mia stepped closer. Why didn't you tell me? She asked. Her voice was soft and hoarse, like she had run a long distance. Because I trusted you, I said. Because I believed you'd remember we don't crop out the person who holds the camera. Because your mother asked me to let you live your life with as little weight from me as possible. But weight isn't the same as anchor. And tonight you told me I'm not part of the picture, so I had to show you the frame. Daniel's parents had gone very still. They looked like people in a painting who have just realized they are being watched. Daniel opened his mouth and closed it again. He looked to Mia, and for the first time since I met him, he had the expression of a boy without instructions. The balcony, lit by the moving sky, held its breath. Mia set her champagne down on the railing and touched the deed with 2 fingers, as if it could burn. I'm sorry, she said, the words breaking like waves over stones. I'm so sorry. She turned to the children. Go inside, sweethearts, she told them, gentle. Put on the movie we discussed. Mommy needs to talk to Grandpa. They went inside, their slippers whispering on the floor. Daniel's parents followed them without a word, their faces arranged into neutrality, the kind people wear when they realize they don't run the room. That left the 3 of us. Fireworks hissed and popped overhead. Somewhere someone sang off-key. Mia took a deep breath. I didn't mean it the way it sounded, she said. I was stressed. I wanted things to be perfect. I wanted a theme. The internet says, she stopped. No, that's not it. The truth is, I wanted it to look like those photos I see online. Everyone matching. Everyone young. No grief. No reminders of your mother? I asked. The words were plain. They felt heavy in the air, then lighter once they were said. She nodded. Tears made her eyes bright. Every time I see you, I see her, she whispered, and then she covered her mouth like the honesty surprised her. I am glad, I said. That means I kept my promise, she blinked. What promise? The one I made while holding her hand in a room that smelled like antiseptic and rain, I said. I said I would keep you close. Even if your closeness sometimes pushed me to the edges. I said I would be quiet when silence was kinder. I said I'd speak when silence became a blade. I let my breath out. It rose in a thin cloud. Tonight silence cut. So I spoke. Daniel stepped forward. His face had lost the polished look. He looked like a man, not a brand. I'm sorry, he said. I didn't think, he swallowed. I thought I was protecting her vision for the night. I didn't realize I was tearing at something bigger. It's easier to curate a life than to live one, I said. Pictures are easy. People are not. But only people hug you back. Mia put her hand over mine. It was cold and small and shaking. Stay, she said. Please stay. You shouldn't be in the background. Not tonight. Not in this house. I looked at our reflections in the glass again. We were older than I felt inside. I thought of the girl who drew chalk fireworks with her mother. I thought of the way she used to say, again, when the chalk dust turned the air cloudy and the lines blurred together. Again. 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 Maybe this was that moment. The chalk in our hands. The dust in the air. A chance to redraw. I'll stay, I said. Not because of papers. Not because I can make or unmake this roof. Because I love you. Because your mother loved you. Because I refuse to let a photograph decide who we are. Daniel wiped his face with his sleeve, surprised to find it wet. He looked at the envelope and then at me. What do we do? He asked, honest for the first time. How do we fix it? We start with a photo, I said. A real one, Mia laughed through a sob. Dad, she said, and it sounded this time like it used to. She picked up the camera Daniel had set aside. Her hands steadied. Come here, she told me. We stood in the middle of the balcony. The wind moved the fairy lights on the plant behind us. The fireworks softened, a glittering lace that floated instead of shouted. Daniel put his arm around both of us, careful, gentle, like he was learning a new shape. Mia held the camera out and looked into the lens, and then she lowered it. One more thing, she said. Can you do the thing Mom used to do? What thing? She smiled, a real smile that showed the little chip on her side tooth that only a parent notices. "Count down with me," she said. We looked up at the sky. "5, she said. "5, I echoed. 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2. 1, we said together, and then we took the picture. No matching pajamas. No perfect symmetry. Just 3 people with 1,000 imperfect moments binding them close. The flash popped, and then the camera showed us our faces. Older, softer. Edges and lines and love and tiredness, and something else that looked like the edge of forgiveness. Inside, the children cheered from the couch as the cartoon fireworks on the screen exploded in bright colors. Daniel's parents hovered in the doorway, their expressions unsettled. I turned to them and nodded. "Would you join us for tea?" I asked. "We have almond cookies." The words were simple. They were also a rope thrown across a gap. They took it. They nodded. We went inside together. In the kitchen, the kettle sang. The sound wrapped around us. Mia took down mugs. Daniel opened the tin I had set on the sideboard and breathed in. "Smells like your mother," he said without thinking, and then looked at me, worried. I nodded. "Yes," I said. "It does." We sat at the table that Nell had varnished one summer afternoon while the radio played old songs. Mia placed the new photo in the middle of the table so no one could pretend it didn't exist. The kids ran in for cookies, crumbs on their lips, laughter like birds. Lily climbed onto my lap with the confidence of someone who knows a chair by feel. "Grandpa," she said, her voice sticky with sugar. "Can I stay up?" "For a little," I said, "but only if you promise to help me clean up tomorrow." "I promise," she said solemnly, as if promises were magic she could make with her small mouth. Mia watched us and shook her head. "You look like Mom when you say that," she told me. "When you ask for help like it matters." "It does matter," I said. "Everything we do to help each other is the only thing that lasts. Houses crumble. Photos fade. But the way we hold a plate while someone else serves, that stays." Daniel poured tea. We clinked mugs. For a while, the only sound was the quiet scrape of cups on wood and the soft, comfortable breaths of children running in and out of rooms. Daniel's parents began to tell a story about the first New Year's Eve of their marriage. It was small and ordinary, and therefore better than any gilded memory. Later, when the children finally slept and the house had the hush of a library, Mia and I stood by the pantry door. It was painted white. From the outside, it was any door in any house. Inside, on the inner panel, were curling pieces of paper stuck with old tape. I reached up and peeled one back. The ink had faded, but the words were still ours. One of Nell's New Year's promises. "Keep the door open." Another, "Say sorry fast." "Say I love you faster." Another, "Never let a good man eat alone." We read them in silence. Mia's tears ran without shaking her shoulders. She leaned into me, and her head fit under my chin like it had when she was small. "I didn't forget her," she said. "I just tried to forget the parts that hurt." "The parts that hurt are where she lives now," I said. "In the ache, in the empty seat, in the smell of tea that turns my head because for a second I think she's there. It's not wrong to miss her. It's wrong to let the missing turn us into strangers." Mia closed her eyes. "I let it," she said. "For a while," I answered. "And now you won't." I tapped the inside of the door with my knuckle. "New year. New promise," she smiled. "You first." I looked at the scraps and thought of the balcony. The spark of Lily's eyes. The thin line of Daniel's fear turning into understanding. The way Daniel's parents had accepted tea when pride could have made them refuse. I thought of the envelope, sleeping now in my coat pocket like a watchdog who has done his job. I thought of Nell drawing stars with chalk and dusting her hands on her apron, laughing when the lines smeared. I took a pen from the drawer and wrote slowly, in letters that were not artistic, but were mine. "Make room. Always." Mia took the pen from me. Her hand shook a little and then steadied. She wrote, "Put Dad in the picture." She underlined it twice. When she finished, she capped the pen and set it down carefully, like it was something holy. We closed the pantry. We turned off lights. We let the house settle. I stood in the doorway with my coat in my hands, but not on my shoulders. Mia lifted her chin toward the couch. "Stay," she said, "please. The spare room is made up." It always is. She swallowed. I keep hoping you'll say yes. Is that true? I asked. It is, she said. Even when I pretend it isn't. I looked at the window. The night outside was quiet now. The city was done shouting and had gone to sleep. Somewhere a car door clicked. Somewhere a dog barked once and then thought better of it. I set my coat on the chair. All right, I said, the way I had said it the day Nell died, but with different weight. All right. In the guest room, my room when I needed it, the bedspread was the one Nell had made from old shirts and curtains. When I ran my hand over it, I could feel the seams. They were strong. They were careful. They held different pieces together that would have fallen into a pile if left alone. I sat on the edge of the bed and let the dark wrap around me. I heard Mia's steps pause outside my door. She didn't speak. She just rested her palm flat against the wood for a second, then walked away. There in the quiet, I let myself miss Nell with a clean ache. It didn't make me small. It made the room bigger. In the morning, light came shyly through the blinds. The house smelled like butter and coffee. Lily's laugh came down the hall, quick and bright. I stood in the doorway and watched Mia flip pancakes. Daniel tied an apron and burned one side and didn't swear. Daniel's parents drank coffee and argued gently about whether to use real maple syrup or the cheap stuff. The kids decorated their pancakes with banana smiles and blueberry eyes, then ate the eyes first and made new ones. I washed dishes as we went, and each plate I dried felt like a small, ordinary victory. When we finished, Mia picked up her phone. I'm sending that photo to the printer, she said. No fanfare, no marketing language, just a family admin note. It's going on the wall. Daniel looked at me over her head. And the rest of the year? He asked. How do we keep this? Put it on the calendar, I said. First Sunday of every month. Dinner here, potluck. Whoever can come, comes. No perfect tables, no themes. Just us, he nodded. Done, he tapped the date. It looked so simple from this angle, just a block of time with a word in it. But I knew what it took to hold something like that. I knew because I had carried it through hard winters and thin springs and summers that stretched like a cat in a square of sunlight. Before I left to take a walk and breathe the cold air, I picked up the envelope from my coat and slid it into the kitchen drawer, the one everyone uses. The one with scissors and batteries and rubber bands, the one you open when you don't know where something belongs. I didn't hide it. I didn't flaunt it. I placed it where a family keeps important things, central, annoying, always slightly in the way, and exactly where you can find it when you really need it. On my way out, I stopped by the family wall. There were photos from years ago and photos from last month, school pictures and silly faces and Christmas mornings where someone's eyes were closed and no one bothered to fix it in editing. I found a nail slightly bent and straightened it with my thumb. When the new photo came, there would be a space waiting. That night, no, that whole day, stayed with Mia. I saw it in the way she said my name on the phone after that, in the way she sent me recipes and asked if they were like Mom's, in the way she let the children run through my house on Saturdays and make messes that only meant we had lives. I saw it in the way Daniel looked at me with respect that didn't come from papers, and in the way Daniel's parents loosened their scarves around me. I saw it in the way Mia took more pictures where the frame was a little crooked, and the happiness was real, and in the way she stopped apologizing for sun glare or flyaway hair. I saw it when she took the pen from the drawer on an ordinary Wednesday and added to the pantry door, "Call Grandpa for advice." Even if I think I already know the answer, I'm telling you this not because I want applause. I'm telling you because there will come a night, maybe tonight, when someone will tell you that you ruined the picture just by standing in it. You will feel the urge to leave quietly and make no trouble. Sometimes that is the right thing, but sometimes the right thing is to stand very still and let your quiet become a mirror where people can see themselves clearly. Sometimes the right thing is to open an envelope or a door or your mouth and say, "This is the frame. This is what we promised. This is who we are." And if you ever stand on a balcony with people you love and watch the sky break open into color, remember what my wife wrote on a scrap of paper and taped where only the ones doing the work would see it. Keep the door open. Keep the door open so the ones who make the food can smell the celebration. Keep the door open so the ones who paid the bill can see the candles. Keep the door open so the ones who are tired can sit in a chair pulled up by someone who still has strength. Keep the door open because you never know when life will close it without asking. And keep a pen handy. There is always a promise left to write. If you felt this in your chest, if any part of my night sounded like a memory of your own, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Tell me the city, the kitchen, the porch, the balcony where your family lives. And if this story meant something to you, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe so more people can hear it, and maybe keep their doors open too.